sich auf die Tanzfläche bewegen. Und nun geht es los.
You are listening to Das Bundesliga Show here on the Lock Betting Podcast. You can follow Lock Betting on X at Lock Betting X. That's at Lock Betting X. That is the account where I always post my P&L from the previous month, and it will be the pin tweet in the next 48 to 72 hours when I pin the month of August, which was the 123rd month in a row of transparent track profit. That means every single month for over a decade, every single month for 123 months, I have been undefeated in sports betting. I can have a losing day, of course I can. Can even have a losing week. I've had them, but I've never ever had a losing month. It's a tracked and transparent fact. Rather than scrolling through to try to find the old spreadsheets, just have a look at the pin tweet, which will be the P&L for the previous month, and then find all of the old ones on the website, lockbetting.com. That's lockbetting.com. I always encourage people to have a look at the spreadsheet, have a look at the type of bets that we do, because we perfectly and sensibly manage our bankroll on a monthly basis. We don't chase losers with massive stakes in order to get our money back. So we don't do this with 5-star plays, 10-unit maxes, 20 to 25-unit whale plays, or 40-unit whales, or 100-unit play of the year plays that seem to not be annual. They seem to be weekly. We don't do any of that. We do it all sensibly. We make betting possible for anybody that has that disposable income. But if you don't have that disposable income and you need to win in sports betting, then you shouldn't be involved in sports betting. But if you do, then come aboard the train. Lockbetting.com is on route to 124 months in a row of transparent track profit in the month of September. Sign up to get the picks for the service ASAP, because we have a huge weekend coming up. 2 editions of the Fight Show will drop because we have a WWE and an AEW pay-per-view. We have Chris Eubank Jr. having a rematch with Liam Smith. And of course, we have a ton of domestic soccer action. And we'll also shortly be dropping futures for both the NFL season and the Champions League as well, off the back of yesterday's Champions League draw. Let's move on with this episode of Das Bundesliga Show. As always, we begin on Friday, and we start with a Dortmund team who are very, very hard to predict at the moment. They're usually always hard to predict most seasons anyway. But this is a Dortmund team who are struggling to score goals. They scraped to a 1-0 home win on the opening day. And last week, they scraped to a 1-1 draw away to Bochum. So it's very uncharacteristic for Dortmund to only score 2 goals in 2 games. And they'll be looking to go off here in this very winnable home game against newly promoted Heidenheim, where Dortmund are the 1-4 favourites to win it. It's 6-1 on the draw, and it's 10-1 here on Heidenheim. I think this could be the game where Dortmund do find their goal-scoring feat, because if they don't, I would be massively concerned as a Dortmund fan. Not in terms of them not challenging for the title, because realistically, Bayern Munich look like an absolute fucking machine this year, and I don't think that Dortmund will realistically challenge for the title, but I'd actually legitimately be worried about the top 4. This has to be a game where you start putting the ball in the back of the net, and that's what I'm going to take Dortmund to do. Dortmund have not looked at their best so far, and I definitely think that Heidenheim could find the back of the net here and force Dortmund to score 2 for the first time this season. 16 of Borussia Dortmund's last 20 Bundesliga home games have actually produced over 2.5 goals. Borussia Dortmund played 11 Bundesliga home games last season with 4 or more goals in them. So we really should see Dortmund finally finding the net on 2 occasions, maybe 3 occasions, maybe 4 occasions here against an Heidenheim team who themselves have netted 10 times in 3 games in all competitions. So we're going to take Borussia Dortmund to win. And we are going to tack on the over 2.5 goals here for this game. So maybe we get a Heidenheim contribution, or maybe we don't. Maybe we just get 3 goals from Dortmund and they finally go off and finally start putting the ball in the back of the net. Dortmund with over 2.5 goals tacked on gets you away from that 1-4 minus 400 moneyline price, and instead you get Dortmund at 4-6 minus 150, providing there are 3 goals in this game. So my selection here for this one, I'm still riding Dortmund and I'm still riding goals. Hopefully I don't live to regret it, because they have looked wretched so far this season. But I think they get right tonight. Dortmund and over 2.5 goals in this game is my selection. And we're getting that at 4-6 minus 150. And I think we're getting that at 4-6 minus 150 because of the way Dortmund have looked so far. Because usually I don't think we would even get minus 200 on this. I think it would be considerably shorter. But given what we've seen so far, we are getting a better line here. And I think we can make the most of it. I think Dortmund go off today, with Heidenheim potentially being the perfect opponents for Dortmund to find their goal scoring feat tonight in this one. Up next, we move across to Saturday. And we look at a team who have been massively impressive so far this season in Bayer Leverkusen. They are the same price as Borussia Dortmund. They're the 1-4 favourites to win this game. It's 6-1 on the draw, and it's 12-1 on their opponents, Darmstadt. I can't see past Leverkusen winning this game, and I see this very much the same as the Dortmund game, except Leverkusen, they have been doing their part. They have been putting the ball in the back of the net. They have been a free-scoring team so far this season. So to get Bayer Leverkusen to win and over 2.5 goals for this game at the same price as the Dortmund game really does offer up some value here for me, because Leverkusen have been far more consistent than Dortmund so far this season. Leverkusen coming to this game off the back of 5 straight wins. Their opponents, Darmstadt, they've got 4 straight losses. They have no wins in the last 8, no clean sheet in the last 4, whilst Leverkusen have seen over 2.5 goals scored in 5 straight games. But what's most important is the fact that Leverkusen have scored first in 5 straight games. So they are a solid front runner, whilst Darmstadt, they are consistently conceding the first goal, which they've conceded in 4 of the last 5. Leverkusen have also got those goals in the first half, as they've won the first half in 5 of their last 5 games, 5 straight games, whilst Darmstadt, they've lost the first half in 4 of their last 5. So I'm expecting a fast start here from Leverkusen. They are the better team, they are the informed team, and they have an opponent in front of them that they should beat quite convincingly, and we should see goals here in this game. In head-to-head matches, Darmstadt have not kept a clean sheet in the last 3 against Leverkusen, whilst Leverkusen have won the last 3 as well. I expect nothing different tomorrow. We're going to play this the same way as the Dortmund game, but probably with more confidence. We're going to take Leverkusen to win. We're going to take over 2.5 goals to be scored in this game, and piling those 2 selections together gives you the price of 4-6 minus 150 here for this one. Up next, we move on to a game between Stuttgart and Freiburg, where Stuttgart are the narrow 23-20 favourites. It's 13-5 here on the draw, and it's 19-10 here on Freiburg. If you cast your mind back to last season, Freiburg were very, very strong at home, but they did not make the Champions League because of their away form. I don't expect that to change this season, but I'm still not picking a winner here for this game. Freiburg come into this with 4 straight wins and no losses in their last 5. So it's difficult to pick against them, especially when you have to take a very inconsistent Stuttgart team. The one thing consistent about Stuttgart is the fact that there are goals in their games. They've actually scored the first goal in 5 of the last 5 games, but Freiburg has scored the first goal in 8 of their last 9, whilst over 2.5 goals has been a play that's cashed in 8 of the last 9 games involving Stuttgart. In head-to-head matches, Freiburg have won this fixture 5 straight times, with Stuttgart not keeping a clean sheet in the last 5. So ultimately, you would lean Freiburg here, which is why it's surprising to see them as an underdog. But I'm just going to take the goals here. I think we'll see plenty of goals. I'm very surprised to see us being given 7-10 on over 2.5 goals. I was willing to go to the Asian goal line market here and take an over 3 and risk just getting a push for 3 goals. And instead, I'm able to cash here on 3 goals. Obviously, it's a worse price, but it's not as much juice as I was expecting to lay on over 2.5 goals. I thought this would be much closer to minus 200. It isn't. And therefore, we will bite and we will take that as our play. So we're going to take over 2.5 goals here for this game between Stuttgart and Freiburg. with the data that Stuttgart have seen over 2.5 goals in 8 of their last 9. If that becomes 9 out of the last 10, that's 90% of their last 10 games. And yet we're being offered 7 to 10 on the selection. Doesn't make sense. Give it to me. Over 2.5 goals here for this one. Up next, we move on to the late game on Saturday as Bayern Munich travel to Borussia Mönchengladbach. Definitely not Bayern Munich's favourite opponent. Over the years, Gladbach have done Bayern some damage, but I just don't think this current version of Gladbach can do that, especially after they were bashed last weekend by Leverkusen and couldn't even contribute a goal to make sure that we won our lot. We ended up with a push, which was disappointing because we had loads of time and loads of chances to actually win that play. Bayern are the 4-11 favourites to win it. It's 5-1 on the draw, and it's 13-2 here on Borussia Mönchengladbach. Bayern win this game, and I think they come out the blocks early after seeing what's happened to Mönchengladbach last weekend and get it done early. I think they'll smell the blood, and I think they'll come out here and get the job done early. The result will never be in doubt, so I'm leaning towards Bayern Munich half-time, full-time, which is Bayern Munich to be winning at half-time and to see it out. As I said, Gladbach were beaten 3-0 by Leverkusen last week, and they have injuries coming into this game, particularly in defence, and they're facing the strongest attack in the league. Bayern Munich have looked good in back-to-back Bundesliga wins, during which they have been ahead both times by the first half. So we need Bayern Munich to go in here ahead after 45 minutes, and then we need them to see it out. This selection is available at the price of 10 to 11 minus 110. I think there's decent value for that selection, given that Bayern Munich have scored 7 across their opening 2 Bundesliga games, whilst Gladbach have shipped 7 in their last 2 games. They are not going to be able to contain this attack for a 45-minute period. I'll be surprised if they can contain this attack for a 25-minute period, especially with the injuries they have. So we're going to take the half-time, full-time here for Bayern Munich at the price of 10 to 11 minus 110 here for this one. The final game we're going to look at here is Union Berlin at home to RB Leipzig, where Union Berlin are the 23 to 10 underdogs. It's 12 to 5 on the draw, and it's even money here on RB Leipzig. This is easy, and it doesn't require too much analysis. Give me Union Berlin plus half a goal, or Union Berlin on the double chance market at the price of 4 to 5 minus 125. Union Berlin were the only team in Germany last year who did not lose at home. It wasn't Leipzig, it wasn't Dortmund, it wasn't Bayern Munich. There was one team in Germany who did not lose a home game last season, and that was Union Berlin. Union Berlin did incredibly well last season to reach the Champions League. Everybody, including myself, was expecting regression, but the early signs are that is not the case. If anything, Union Berlin look better than they did last season, especially in attack. So I think the only team out of these two that have regressed is RB Leipzig, because RB Leipzig have lost Christopher Nkunku, they've lost Sloboslai, they've lost Gardvial as well. So I think only one team here has regressed, and therefore I will not be taking that team as a favourite to come and win at Union Berlin, a team who did not lose a single Bundesliga home game all of last season. You only need a draw to cash this selection. So once again, we're going to take Union Berlin plus half a goal, or Union Berlin on the double chance market, and we're being given the price of 4 to 5 minus 125 here for this one. Closing out with your lock on the show. This is a really good week for Bundesliga because I really do like a lot of this stuff that I've talked about. But ultimately, the standout play is Bayer Leverkusen to continue winning and to tack on the over 2.5 goals for this game here against Darmstadt. Bayern Munich aside, Leverkusen have looked like the most impressive team in the league so far, and I don't think they slip up here against a Darmstadt team who have no clean sheet in 4, have lost 4 straight games, have no win in the last 8, whilst their opponents have got 5 wins in a row and have seen over 2.5 goals in all 5 of those games. They've also scored the first goal in 5 straight games, so I see them coming out the blocks fast here, starting well and going on to have a comfortable win. I was tempted by the half-time, full-time for this one, which is available at 4 to 5 minus 125. The only concern I have is if Darmstadt do sit in with a defensive low block and manage to somehow get to half-time 0-0. If Bayer Leverkusen can then score early in the second half, or even in the first half of the second half, there's still an opportunity for this game to open up and for them to get to the over 2.5 goal mark. If we have a 0-0 first half, we are dead in the water. Or if we have Darmstadt scoring against the run of play, because Leverkusen aren't the best defence in Europe by any means, then suddenly we are in a situation where we can't cash the selection because we need Leverkusen to score 2 goals. So I just think it's a little bit safer to do it this way. I would not dissuade you from taking Leverkusen half-time, full-time at the better price. It is obviously a play that has good supporting data, just like this one. But I'm going to lean for Leverkusen and the over 2.5 goals here, which is available at the price of 4 to 6 minus 150. Your lock for this show. That's it for me in this edition of Das Bundesliga Show. Good luck with all your bets as always, and thanks for listening.